So it was 2023. It was, I want to say 3 weeks after my birthday. The woman who I was with, we ended up splitting up. I was in the UK. Before I even came to the UK, I always wanted to go to Africa. And I knew I used to always talk to her about going to Africa. And at that moment in time, when we were done, I was like, I'm not going back to the States. I'm going back to Africa. You know, been trying to plan it with this person, didn't work out. Doesn't mean that we're failures, you progress, right? And that's what I did. So I was like, I started getting new connections. And, you know, when I started telling people, hey, look, you know, I'm single now, you know, my next step is Africa. One thing about me, when I have a plan, I stick to it. And I started setting things up to go to Africa. Now, mind you, the people that I met, they wanted me to go to Malawi, but unfortunately in February, I think 2023, the cyclones hit and it damaged, you know, Malawi. And I was supposed to be going to Africa in May. So it was just bad timing for me to try to go, knowing that they were dealing with the devastation of a cyclone, even 3 months later. So I was advised to go to Zimbabwe instead. When I first went to Zimbabwe, I'm not gonna lie, I was surrounded by people who were not the type of people that I would recommend anyone, you know, be around. They did the best that they could with what they had. And then I felt like everywhere I looked around, people were just wanting to take from me, take advantage of me. And mind you, it was election season. So for me being a media person and me being a foreigner, I just had so many different negative labels slapped on me as soon as I got to Zimbabwe. As time went on, you know, I ended up going to an event. I because even though I was in a depressed state, because I was very depressed when I was, you know, going from the UK to Africa, I ended up giving it 100% when I was doing work. And I was doing media work voluntarily at this event. And I ended up meeting a very sweet woman who came up to me and was like, I want you to marry my daughter. That was her first words to me. And that was said to be, you know, false. She never wanted me to marry her daughter. She wanted me to be her son. That's the way that, you know, women out there say, hey, I want you to be my son. This particular queen had an organization, and she was the first person that actually booked me for a class. Mind you, at this time, I had been in Zimbabwe for almost 5 months. And I was surrounded by well-known people, quote unquote, people who were supposed to be very well connected, and nothing ever happened. This woman met me 3 days later. I'm in a class with her. That's how I knew she was legit. That's how I knew, even though I went in with a certain mindset, oh, I love Africa, oh, I want to help my people, it didn't pan out that way because people saw that and they said, I'm gonna take advantage of this nigga. And this lady ended up becoming what I call to this day my African mother. People always ask, where's your mom? I got one in Africa, I got one in America. Now my mom in America, nobody will ever replace her. Never, ever. The reason I say that this woman is my African mother is because she got on the phone. She was the first person to get on the phone with my family, primarily my mother, and let my mom know your son is now in good hands. I apologize. She even apologized and said, I apologize with all the stuff that he went through. We weren't around. And when she said we, she was talking about her and her husband. This man, who is her husband, I looked at him as an African father. And they took care of me since day one. They sent me off to Malawi, where I was supposed to go originally. And everything, you know, started going well. You know, I was in a place called Chilamoni, where the people were nice. Then I went off to Chileka to do some volunteer work. I was doing media, but the people that I was working with, I felt like our plans didn't align. So I just ended up leaving. I'm pretty sure if you ever meet them, they'll tell you like, we hated Reggie. And, you know, I'm used to that shit. Excuse my French. I'm used to it. But it was just another case in point scenario of when you're in the media field, you know, you're going to come across a whole bunch of difficulties because there's so many creative differences. So I ended up leaving, and I ended up you know, living in a Christian household that was ran by a Christian figure, so to speak, without throwing any names out there, because I don't want anybody to be publicly humiliated. But this powerful figure was a person that I didn't agree with his ways while I was living under his roof. I ended up connecting with a person who was scouting me for over a year, and she was running a school in Zimbabwe. And she contacted me because my mindset was, I'm gonna be leaving to go back to America. I tried to make it work. I'm surrounded by these people who's trying to take advantage of me. Nobody's really helping me. They're playing broke, using Reggie for all his talents, benefiting off of his talents, lying about it to the public. I'm out of here. Next thing you know, this woman hears the story because it was an article that went out. She calls me and says, Reggie, I want you to come and work with me at this school.